Okay, if you can hear us, please let us know. Typing on the side, typing below, let us know that you can hear us. And if you're watching the recording, welcome to Noble Warrior. This is the place where entrepreneurs talk about where I talk to other heart-centered driven entrepreneurs about how they get off the self-esteem roller coaster ride and create a life of breakthrough, success, fulfillment, and impact. We're going to cover mindset, mental models, actionable tactics throughout the interview so then you can go out and create your own life that you love. My next guest has cooked for the King of Morocco, French president, the former UN Secretary General. He is the executive chef and co-owner of Torenga. He is the TED speaker with over 1 million views. His cookbooks has been nominated for the Julia Child Cookbook Award, the Gourmand Award in Paris, and the James Beard Award. He's the founder of Yolélé Foods. Please welcome Pierre Thiam.
Thiam.
Thanks. Thiam?
Yeah, Thiam.
With the CH sound?
Like CH sound, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Please welcome Pierre Thiam. Thank you. Thanks for being here, Pierre. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, CK.
So you are a very interesting person. You know, in your talk, you started with the phrase cosmic justice that you became a chef in New York. How did you come all the way from Senegal and end up in New York?
So it's a long journey. It's an ongoing journey. Well, I was born in Dakar. Dakar is the capital city of Senegal, and grew up there. An eventful childhood until I was a student in physics and chemistry. Very political at the time. When I was a student already, university in Senegal, we very political. It's like so there was a year where we got into a series of strike. We were like just wanted some changes in the school system. We wanted the government to treat us better. And those strikes went on for so long that the government decided to shut down the school system. So the university is shut down. And here we are, we have to face our immediate future. We all have to start over a new year next year. And I was one of those guys who thought, it wasn't a question. It wasn't, I wasn't going to start over again. And I've managed to get a student visa at a small college in Ohio, out of all places. And I was on my way to Ohio. We decided to visit New York because a friend of mine lived in New York. It's not that I decided. New York was a necessary stop coming from Dakar. You have to stop by JFK. And then I was going to figure out a way to bus my way to Ohio. And my friend lived in New York. It was back in the late 80s, 1989 to be precise. And my friend lived in an area near Times Square, a hotel, quote unquote hotel, very, it's the scariest place I had ever seen in my life, this whole area. I was coming from, innocent Dakar, like where everything was nice, seaside city, tourist place. And here I am in Times Square in the 80s, in the middle of like an AIDS epidemic, the crack epidemic. I mean, everything was like just, I wasn't prepared for that. And 3 days after I arrived, I was robbed 3 days after I arrived in New York. That's really what changed everything for me. And I was robbed, and I was very tempted to return to Senegal. I was like, fuck this. This was just too. I'm sorry for using.
No, perfect. I love that.
But
no,
I yes. literally said, I gotta return. This is a crazy place, crazy country. Barely spoke English. I was just like, what am I doing here? And then a friend of mine, somebody I met in that place, that hotel, happened to be working in a restaurant, and that restaurant was looking for a busboy. And he asked me if I would take the job. He said, why don't you take the job, get some money? And, and naively, I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And, I didn't need much experience. My first job ever in my life. And here I am in this restaurant in the West Village called Garvin's. And the place was fascinated to me because it was a cultural shock. In the kitchen, I come from a culture where cooking is a gender-based activity. I grew up with women in the kitchen and men, whatever, they are doctors or street cleaners, whatever, but not in the kitchen. And here I am in this restaurant. There's only men in the kitchen. There's not a single woman, and I'm like, "What's this country is nuts," you know. And but that was great because not only Senegal is a gender-based activity for for the kitchen, but everyone loves food. We from It's a great food culture. If you know Senegal, it's an amazing food culture, and this is because it's just like this melting pot. Dakar is a melting pot, and it's been a crossroad for cultures for hundreds of years. We were colonized by the French. Before the French, the Portuguese were there. We have the big Vietnamese community in Senegal, a big Lebanese community, and all of these cultures, they bring their food, and that makes just like this very interesting fusion, that you see. That's really what I grew up around, this amazing food. So I enjoy great food. My mom was a foodie before foodie was a thing, and here I am in this restaurant, and I'm looking at these dishes, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing, and these guys can do it, and salivating, and at the same time very curious about how did they get there. And the chef became this friend of mine, a mentor and a friend, because he wanted to practice his French with me. And anytime, and he was like, hey, why don't you get extra shifts? Come here. You start washing dishes like I did, and we practice French. You get extra money, you wash dishes, and you learn your way up into the kitchen. You seem to be very interested in cooking, and I was like, why not? For me, any way to get more money to get out of New York was like good enough. So, but of course, I hated washing dishes, and that was I was like, I hated it. I was like this, college guys thinking I was going to be, working in an office. This mindset, and that was the best thing that happened to me. I think it humbled me, but it also gave me a strong foundation for the kitchen. I think, even now in my restaurants, I always like to hire people who have been going through those steps, because it's so important to respect that step of the kitchen. But gradually over the years, I've started to really fall in love with cooking. It's like, I started from washing dishes, started peeling vegetables, of course, all the steps, becoming a prep cook. After becoming a prep cook, becoming a garde-manger, working the salad station. From the salad, I started working the other stations of the kitchen, the grill, the saute station, the sauces. And, over years, I mean, this been like a span of 30 years, of course, but over the years, I fell in love with cooking. I saw that cooking was also chemistry, which was my background, which is what I've been studying in school. And I could see those reactions were chemical reactions. Everything was happening in the kitchen. I could connect with the reaction. That made sense to me. So I educated myself, and the chef was leading me towards the books to read, and I was really getting into it. From there, I went into an Italian restaurant, learned more skills, worked in a French restaurant, Jean-Claude in Soho, and grew gradually, worked up the ladder of the kitchen until I got to this another restaurant in Soho, where I became a sous chef. It's called Boom. And from becoming a sous chef, that restaurant was so. Oh, go ahead. I'm too fast, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. There's a lot to unpack, because you essentially are compressing 30 years of your life in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
But let me backtrack a little bit, bringing back to the origin story, where you were robbed, about to go to Ohio, never made it there. You were robbed, and you decided to take a dishwashing job as a way to just make some money to get out of the place, right? Mm-hmm. So bring yourself back to that position. Can you share with us how you got out of that dark moments? Because in that moment, it couldn't have been feeling great. You couldn't have seen the trajectory of your career. So in that moment, in dark moments, how were you able to, continue to be confident and move things forward? Or it literally was just, hey, I gotta make ends meet, so I would take whatever. Can you bring us back to that moment, please?
Yeah, I think that what switched at some point, I mean, I was very anxious in the beginning and almost panicking until, I learned to accept it. I was like, okay, this has happened now. I have to, there's nothing to change about it. I'm broke. I have no money. I'm, away from Senegal, and I have to make it happen. So I think the moment I've accepted it, things changed in a way that was positive. It's like, and I started to see a light, this chef became my friend, and he told me that I could still find a path and get to where he is now, just by working hard. And and I worked hard. I mean, I worked really hard. I was accumulating hours like nobody's business. I mean, it was crazy. I was like trying to get out of here. So the only way for me was to work. I had no family around, nobody. It was just me, this young kid from Africa who wants to leave this crazy place. So yeah. Did I answer your question?
You did, and I asked that question also as a teaching moment for the younger Pierre or the younger CK watching this, right? Because this is COVID, business may not be doing so well, whatever business they're in, presidential election just happened. A lot of things are changing all over the place, and some of them may be at a dark place. So I wanted to use your experience as a teaching moment to say, hey, what did you do to get out of that dark moments, to get out of those dark circumstances?
Yeah. I mean, just for me realizing that there was things that I couldn't change. The fact that I was broke now, and like I lost everything. Accepting that is just put me in a better place to face the future. And then I realized the future now was to roll up my sleeves and learn new skills with what I have. And
so again, focusing on that particular moment, you're a college guy, you're supposed to study physics and chemistry, and now all of a sudden you're a dishwashing busboy. And was there, you had said it earlier, it's a humbling experience. So was there a mental shift that you needed to happen for you to humble yourself to do these type of manual labor work? Or was it just, hey, circumstances happen, I'm gonna go wash dishes, it's not a problem? Was it fluid? Was it some challenges internally when that shift happened?
I wouldn't say it was fluid, but again, when I say accepting, that's the really the word that really comes to me. It's like just to say that I've embraced it. I've embraced everything, the circumstances. I'm in a deep stink right now, and this dishwashing job can help me get out of it. So I'm going to give it the best. And I was a good dishwasher. As far as I know, it was like I was like, I want to do it right. I would just want to get myself up, right. I'm really down right now. And that's what I meant by when in my TED talk, when I begin by the accident, the universe created the world, like it's something like that, right? But that's what it is. The universe had a plan. I believe, and I had to go through this dishwashing job to get to where I am today. Without it, there was no way I would have gotten here. I wouldn't even think of cooking as a career. This is and just learning those skills. All of this, the universe knew what was happening, and for me, it was I was resisting because it was humbling, it was difficult, and I felt like I was above this. But accepting it allowed me to do it right and to not get fired and to keep growing. And
yeah, and then I did a lot of research and a lot of the previous talk that you've done, and then you said that someone in one of your videos that you were actually really thankful for the person that stole your luggage.
Absolutely. I mean, especially when I have the privilege of seeing where I would have been, because I came to New York with a friend of mine, my best friend at the time. We were both students, and I actually found that college where he went, the college in Ohio. I found the college, and I told him, let's apply, and we applied, and we got through. And he went to Ohio, and he became a chemical engineer, and he's doing his thing, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm like, I have no regrets at all. And him, listening to him sometimes, he's like, wow, I wish I was cooking, I wish I was in your place. I mean, that's really, I thank this guy. I mean, the whoever stole my belongings.
Yeah.
Did the big thing.
So one thing I do want to ask, because you came out of more of an apprenticeship, right? From, as you said, busboy to prep cook to salad station and so on and so forth, versus going to like a traditional cooking school per se.
Mhm.
So knowing what you know now, could you unpack for us sort of how you learn this, how you master the different skills? And by the way, I'm asking this question because I was watching one of your shows where you were, talking a lot and cutting a lot and just like, paying attention a lot. And in my mind, I'm like, how does he do that? He's talking super fast. You're cutting super fast. How did you like? What is your learning methodology? I'm curious to know your thought.
When I found my passion in cooking, I just went all the way. I went all the way. I just, that's all I could do. That's all I would do. I would practice. I would read. I have an incredible cookbook collection. And that came from those days. It's just been something that I just wanted to. And I went to other chefs to do apprenticeship and learning skills. So the question you asked me is, how did I get there? I think this is the best school, to go through those steps, with the passion first. You have to have passion. You have to have to be into what you're doing. You have to really love it. Love is the ingredient that gave me the way to do it the way I did.
I love that. Love is an ingredient. That's a quotable quote. And by the way, I'm also asking this question in a self-serving way because I'm looking at you, a master chef, and the same thing with Eric Oberholzer, who introduced us.
Uh-huh.
You guys are master chefs, right? You have your restaurants and you're, again, master skills and can talk and cut really fast without paying attention. Amazing. So someone like me, who's actually, frankly speaking, a little bit intimidated. I enjoy good food, but have yet to find the love, the passion for food per se. I get it on the intellectual basis, but I don't quite get it on the, because I think in one of your videos you said just you really enjoy the preparation of it, the eating of it. Like, how did you find that? Maybe you can coach me a little bit how to actually find that love for food.
I think it comes to you. It really comes to you when you sincere. No defense. You really go. Like I like to say when I teach a class, is to be present in the kitchen. That's really the opportunity for you to be present. And for me in the kitchen, I'm feeling like I'm in it can be a meditation. All my senses have to be present. That's really that requires that. Cooking requires to have all your senses present, and it starts in the market. When you go do your market, you want. The market is like a feast of senses. You have the sounds, you have the hagglers, you have the colors, you have the smells, and all those senses give you information about the ingredient that you're getting. When I want to buy a fish, I want to make sure I touch the fish with my hands, my fingers. I poke it to see that the fish is fresh. The flesh has to be bouncing back. The eyes of the fish have to be having a certain brightness, and you have to look at the gills to make sure they're bright red. The same thing when you buy your mango, you want to touch the mango to know how that mango is feeling. You want to smell the mango also to make sure you have that sweetness, that particular to the mango that just comes on you. That's how you get to connect with those ingredients. So there's a connection, there's a communication that's happening between you and the ingredients. And over time, that becomes something that's like, that's another language really that's part of you. And, to answer your question, if you get that presence in the kitchen, when you go in the kitchen, just be present, and you're going to start hearing the ingredients talking to you. You're going to start hearing, you're going to, in the market, you'll feel that too. And, and you taste, of course, and as you taste, trust your intuition. There's intuition. You see, I'm talking about things that are really not as concrete as, those who are used to using reason and rational in there, and this is not what it is in the kitchen. This is really, it's about the senses. It's about like feeling, back, especially me, I come from a background in Africa, there was not much cookbooks, when I was writing my cookbooks, oftentimes they were pioneering cookbooks. It's like, I mean, mine was the first one in English for Senegalese cookbook, actually. And so because we didn't record the recipes, we cook with our senses, we cook with the feelings, and that's what the mothers would tell you. Whenever I would call my mom to get a recipe, sometimes it was frustrating because she would tell you, what do you mean, how many teaspoons? It's not like that. It's like, and finally I got it. And once you get it, it's so easy. It's really easy. It's like, it's great.
Yes, I mean, here's the thing. You were physics and chemistry, so you understand my cerebral self,
There we go.
why I'm asking these questions, right? Because like you, my mom was a master chef. She loves food, and she would just always tell me, "Oh yeah, a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of sugar,
Yeah.
a little bit of something." And I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" I need to understand. I don't understand. Like, how do you get it? So, anyways, so so one thing that I hear from what you're saying is more of a feeling, right? An intuition, and it's not so much about the intellect, even though there is an intellectual component to it, but most of it is really be present, and the food, the ingredient would talk back to us. Essentially, that's what you said.
Yeah, it's emotional. The intellect is part of it, but the intellect is a deduction of the emotion. The emotion far superior, especially when it comes to the kitchen, the emotion are like, just you let them guide you, and you'd be surprised, like sometimes I just pick an ingredient and put it without having planned it, because I'm in that flow, and I know that, this is what's called.
So on this podcast, by the way, flow, emotions, intuitions and then also spirit. These are common themes that we talk about. So please go ahead and feel free to say anything you want to say there.
Awesome.
And part of, so as a master chef who has a really high level of sensitivity and awareness around food ingredients. I know that one of the things you said, always get fresh ingredients. I don't understand why people would get dry spices, right? Things like that. So what other tactical ways could one do, novice, beginner, to gain more awareness and sensibility around food, in the domain of food?
Well, a tip would be, again, coming back to the ingredients. The ingredients are everything. The ingredients. If you manage to get good quality ingredients, most of it is done. I mean, the rest, we like. I mean, in a sense, we are con artists, chefs, because we do all these things to like make you look like we're doing something, we're doing nothing really. Everything, 90% of it is the ingredient.
Wow.
99%. I'm wrong. 99% is the ingredients. If you have a fresh fish, a fish that was just caught here, you have to have the technique, but the technique is the part that, the reason. But the rest, you can't go wrong. You can't miss it. It's like the fish is already, nature has made it this way. It's here, and everything else is the same way. If you have great ingredients, you know how to source your ingredients properly. And when I say great ingredients, I'm talking about the whole picture too. Great ingredients, in terms of taste, the great ingredients, the way they've been also the way you source them. You want to make sure these ingredients are coming from the right environment. When I talk about when we say, why do we say free range chicken, when we say organic, why do we, because that all of those also affect everything. It's like, you want to, even the farmer, you want to know the farmer. Does the farmer right? Does he have the right heart? Does he love what he's doing? That affects the ingredient. That does. When I talk, people think you crazy, but it's so true though. It's so true. If you find the right producer and you connect with him, you know that he's going to give you the right products and products are going to just make your cooking shine.
Mm.
That's right.
So I love that you're reiterating what Eric Oberholzer shared on this podcast. You guys
Okay.
didn't talk beforehand, but you guys are saying the same thing. He said,
Awesome.
he said his job is to romance the food.
Oh, like
And then
that.
I like that too. And he also said one of the key things for a novice like me is to go to the farmers market and get to know the farmers. The same thing you said, because it's about understand how they think. I'm interpreting now. These are my words. How
Yeah.
they think, and then how much love, right, that they put into their products, and then the end results, which is the produce, would have that. And then on this podcast, we say we make what we are. So if they have a right mindset with the
Mhm.
right currency, the end results will show up on a superior, more premium basis. Is that a good recap of what you said?
Absolutely. You said it even better than what I tried to say. That's exactly what I was trying to say. If they have the right mind, the right heart, it can't go wrong. The product will be right. But if they are already focused by profits on profits only, I mean, they're like thinking shareholders, they're not thinking about the soil, they're not thinking about the product, they're not thinking about the planet, you know. These guys don't care, to feed you poison, which is what they will feed you. They will feed you poison, and that's what's happening. Look at what's coming from big agri. That's poison because those guys are not farmers. They are like, I don't know, factory, whatever.
I love how you just say whatever is on your mind versus trying to be diplomatic. In all of your talks, you just say what's on your mind. I love that. Okay.
Because I haven't been educated. I didn't go. I wasn't formatted in the school system. Thank God I didn't make it to Ohio. So that's
Okay, so a quick recap. Visit your local farmers, immerse in the local culture. That's one of your favorite things to do. When you also said that, right? Whenever you go all around the world, that's what you love to do. Get fresh ingredients, fresh herbs. You also said about cooking with your hands and eating with your hands. Can you say more about that? Why is that important?
so. I think the hands are your best tools in the kitchen. Your fingers, your hands, the information that you can get, the way you can communicate with your ingredients, with your everything around you. The way the hand does it, nothing else can do it. And having what you want to do to avoid is uh, um, a middleman, right? That's why you go directly to the farmers, right? Right. But that's what it is. That's what it is. And but try to eat with your hands. I come from a culture where we eat with our hands. Try to eat with your hand. I mean, obviously, some of you guys have to just go beyond there's a cultural, just some blockage somewhere, but just go beyond that. What we do, we wash our hands, of course, and we eat with our right hand. Our right hand, that's the hand you use to shake people's hand and stuff. That's the hand you greet people with. That's like the hand that you take the food and you feel that food, right, and you put it in your mouth. The food will taste so much better. I mean, Casey, try it. CK, try it. And tell me, try it and try it again. Try it without all the biases. There's so much, layers of cultural blockage that you have to remove before you connect directly. But what you're doing is you're removing the middleman, the metal spoon. What's that metal spoon? It's like, it's just leave it. Use your hands.
Mm,
Yes. I cook, I touch with my hand, I do everything with my hands, and when I eat, I like to eat with my hands too. Yeah.
mm.
All the time, obviously, but when I have the opportunity, I do it.
So I'm smiling a lot because what you've said is essential what my mother said as well. She loves to eat with her hands too,
Ah.
especially around seafood. Like she just like get in there, like
Yeah.
oh,
I mean,
and
how can you eat a crab without using your hand? You have to open it and like get it directly, and that, oh my goodness, that's magic. That's really how it goes.
as you said, mental blocks, right? Because
Yeah,
as a city person, I like things. I'm a little anal. I'm a little OCD, right? So I don't like messy things.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But hey, I'm willing to learn. So now that Eric has said it, you've said it, my mom said it. Enough people have said it. I'm
Yeah,
willing to give it a shot.
give it a shot.
Give it a shot for sure. Okay. What about, you also said not just the preparation part. What you love about food is when you eat, you like to eat with your hands, with music, and you also are very active in creating like a like an invitation. So it's a social thing to bring people together. Can you say more about that? Music and friends and social community.
Music is I mean, for me, it's a personal thing. When I cook, especially when I'm creating, when I'm going free flow, I have a particular. I listen to diverse music, but I love to listen to jazz when I cook, and uh, old school, because that jazz, that's free flowing, that just the musician, the way they, I mean, it's intuition, and there's like, call and response between instruments. That's a way that's cooking for me, in a way that's cooking. It's like, the cooking is like different ingredients reacting to each other, and you the cook, you're the medium, but you like also playing a role in it, and you, if each of us are playing to have something harmonious, and that harmony is musical, and it's like it's a different dimension because it comes with with taste, and but you have a symphony of flavors that
Mm,
as you cook and as you eat, as you cook, it comes in smells, it comes in, and as you eat, it tastes, different layers, and it comes in, and that's how music comes to this symphony. So yes, it's very important for me is to music just help me get to that place. It's not necessary, but it helps you get to that place. And oftentimes in my kitchen, I understand often my cooks too, they love to play music. We may have different style of music, but music takes them to a place that just allows them to do their cooking better. So that's fine with me. And and the having people around, the invitation is really, I think, um the reason really for cooking. It's like bringing people together. It's because I come from a culture where uh, we eat around the bowl. You don't eat alone. I remember my mom. I didn't realize that until one day my mom came to visit me in the US. That was way after they had accepted that I was a cook, and I would never be the engineer they dreamed of. But it's another story. But she came to visit me, and she was shocked. We took a train, and she was shocked to see this guy eating a pizza in the platform. And she was like, I mean, something New Yorkers would walk by, they wouldn't notice. My mom was like, wow, hey, look at this guy. But like, what shocked her was that the guy was eating alone. It's like he was
mm,
like sitting down. He wasn't able to be patient and get to the place where he would be
mm,
surrounded by his loved ones and his friends, and
mm,
share whatever, because
mm,
we eat around the bowl, and we eat, in Senegal. I grew up in a way, at school, you would go to school at noon, we would leave school. Everyone would go home at noon to eat lunch. And we would sit around the bowl, and we would eat, some of us with our hands, others, because they've been colonized, they use their spoons. But, we'd eat around. But that's the moment where we share. It's more than just the food that we share. We share just, this is love. This is a moment of trust. First of all, eating around the bowl with people left and right, you have to trust them. There's trust coming, there's love coming. And the more important is, oftentimes you would see somebody in the bowl, around the bowl, sitting, that you didn't know he was coming, or you don't even know him, because you always have a guest. They always, my mom taught me to always invite people. She
mm,
Because this was a belief. She grew up in that culture, and I grew up in that culture. We believe that the more you have people, especially when it comes to food, these people bring blessings to you, especially if it's somebody who's not expected. somebody happened to be passing by the house, or just coming by to drop something, and you say, no, stay for dinner, stay for lunch, and that person knows that he has to stay too, because if he refuses, even if he ate, he has to stay, because that's just the way he brings blessings to the person who invited you. And we believe that that person is the one who guarantees that your bowl will always be plentiful, because you invite people to your bowl. There's always going to be more food. There's there's this superstition, but it's so true in my culture. That's why I call my restaurant Teranga. That's the word for that. Is that hospitality, that sharing with people, bringing, and I'm so sorry, I'm just bringing so many different layers. And
no, this is great. I love it. I totally love it. I mean, by the way, just so that you know, from all the research I've done, your commitment to use food and music and culture to bring people together and in a communal table, that's palpable. That's true. That's congruent.
That's right. Look, I'm sorry, I'm gonna bend here. I need to plug my computer before.
Sure, do your thing, of course. It's all good.
The last thing we want is to run out of power. Okay.
Yeah. Gotta have fuel.
Yeah. Okay, we're good.
So let me ask you this question. Because you came from, in hindsight, it's 2020. Because you had an aunt who was a foodie, your mom had a French cookbook, your godfather was from Vietnam, who is a man and who also cooks. So in hindsight, it's like, of course, Pierre is gonna grow up to be a chef. But only in hindsight, right? So in the beginning, you were destined to be an engineer. So was there an identity shift? Was there something you had to let go of on the inside for you to, in something that you struggle with, for you to really embrace, being a chef in food, that is okay, that this is my dharma? I don't know if you believe in that, like a dharma thing. So can you say a little bit about that, the identity shift internally?
Yeah. The thing I had to let go of was my ego, really. I mean, the physics and chemistry, I had no problem letting go of, because there was no passion there. I was just happened to be good at physics and chemistry in high school, and then when I went to college, university, I got sent to the Department of Physics and Chemistry. I couldn't care less. I just wanted to have my college degree, but that wasn't the thing. I had no passion really for anything. I just knew that, I wanted to do something that would allow me to travel. I love to travel. I love people. That's really but I had no particular goal, But when I say I had to let go of my ego, because my ego was telling me, what are you doing cooking? It's a woman's job, What do you, it's a manual job. You're supposed to be in an office like your dad, someone who the idea of success, in our culture is like when you made it in the office and you wear a suit and tie and you're a doctor or you're something like that, or politician or something. But so that ego, that voice that was telling me that I was a failure because I was here, was I washing dishes or cleaning fish or doing stuff that women would do in your country. Not even that I was misogynistic or anything like that. It was just the society that I grew up in. It was just, this is not for you. I'm better than this. That's what my ego was telling me. So I had to let go of that. That shift came when I found when I was honest to myself that I really loved cooking. I realized that this was, and that I, and realized that cooking didn't have to be limited to just what I was actually doing. I could dream of better places to go. I could dream of introducing my food culture to the so-called food capital of the world that had nothing African represented. So I was like, I could, I can bring things. I can make my own revolution, with the food that I love to cook. So it's like, so that's when the shift came, and then I realized that I could do anything with it.
So, so you were discovering on the inside, hey, this is below me, but actually you started to really like it. And you also saw a brighter future. Hey, I don't just have always to be a dishwasher. I don't always have to be the busboy. There are dreams I can accomplish if I put my thought to it, my action into it, right? So at what point did that happen? Was that a gradual thing, or was it more like a switch?
I think it was gradual. It was, from dishwasher, getting out of dishwasher. The next step was to prep. So prep was the next step, and I'm like, prep is not good enough. It's like I just gotta get out of prep. And I was ambitious. I'm an ambitious guy. I admit, and I wanted always, to be to the next step, to be at the next place, and that's how it happened. And then it really happened when I got offered chef de cuisine position. That was supposed to be the top, right? You're in the restaurant and you're the chef, you're the main man right now. So when I'm like, there's more to it, and I knew there was more to it, and for me, that's when I found my mission, really, of really just changing, because there was so much ignorance when it came to African food. There was so much ignorance when it came to Africa, period. And I thought I could play a role. I thought I could play a role with food, by just bringing the great food that I grew up eating, and introducing it just gradually in this small restaurant first, start bringing it to the staff, family meal, and then family meal after that, making it as specials at the restaurant, and see the reaction of the patrons, and see how all those little steps confirmed to me that I had something that I could just take and run with it. And that's how I collected recipes and wrote my first cookbook. That's how, it happened gradually. But at some point, I realized that I wanted to bring my food culture. I wanted to bring it at an international level. I wanted to revisit it. I wanted to, and there was, so much you could do with that, then, there's no end.
It's kind of like watering a plant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every day you water it, or however long you water it, you don't expect it, a seedling to be a mighty oak tree tomorrow. So it's every day, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, there's a tree. I didn't, there's fruit. Bring the food analogy back in play. So question for you is this: someone like me who is not very familiar with African culture at all, I'll admit, I want to learn. So where should I start? What should I eat? More African dishes dishes with African roots, or what African cuisines do I try? Where do I go? What do I do?
Well, that's a good question. You'd be surprised that some of the African food that you'll be eating will taste so familiar to you, because you have had it already. When you look at the influences that Africa has in this country in particular, with the Middle Passage, and you look at the food that you have in Southern food is African food, really. It's West African food, gumbo, jambalaya, hopping jones, all those dishes are West African dishes. You can trace them directly back to specific regions of West Africa, Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, because that's food that was brought here with slavery, and it came and it stayed. The ingredients that were brought here with slavery, people don't talk about that. Some ingredients like rice, people always connect rice with Asia. Yet there are two families of rice. There's the Asian rice and there's the African rice. There's two big families. But the rice that was brought here to the America, that started in the Carolinas, was the rice that was coming from West Africa. There's called the Oryza glaberrima. And there's some research has been done. And then finally realizing that they were targeting slaves in parts of West Africa because they had a rice culture, and they were bringing them to the Carolinas to make this economy of the Carolina around rice. The whole economy was based on rice. That, they called it the Carolina Gold, by the way.
Mm.
So African food it has been present in many parts of the world, and we don't realize it. You talk about paella in Spain. People don't realize that paella started in Valencia, and Valencia at the time was part of the Moor empires, and the Moor empires actually was like stretching all the way through Morocco, Mauritania, which is south of Senegal, north of Senegal. And paella is a dish that's so similar to Senegalese national dish, the chebujan. It's the same red-colored rice with seafood, and that's the only dish in Spain that they eat around the bowl. Everything else they eat differently. But the paella, they have this large bowl, the same way we eat our rice dishes. So there's, again, and then you do more research, you realize that rice arrived in Valencia in the 16th century with the Moors. So, so you had paella, so you had already had some African food. You had gumbo, you already had some African food. You had jambalaya. So, food is just a safe way to learn more about our food culture, our culture in general, African culture. And that's why I love it, because the restaurant is a safe place. It's like people are coming, with good intentions. It's love. It's like, we can sit around the table, and your enemy becomes, a potential friend here, because no, it's just about eating together, breaking bread, and I see my restaurant as places that make it possible, for people to come with like the ideas they had about Africa, but they come and they enter and they eat and they get transformed. They realize that, oh wow, this is great food. This is good for you. It's good for your body. This is, you feel great after that, and you had some time, a good conversation with someone who just happened to meet there, or someone.
Yeah. There is something magical about food because, well, one, everyone needs to eat, and so I was speaking to a musician guest the other day. He said music has power to basically transform a whole space of 10,000 people in 10 seconds. Yes, but food is welcome everywhere you go. So as a chef, I would assume, you are welcome anywhere you go, because people know whenever you show up, you can make magic happen anywhere. Am I projecting? Is that an accurate observation?
Well, it seems to be true when when people know that you're a chef. They often expect that you're going to come and whip up a gourmet dish for them or something. But the opposite also is true, because people are afraid to invite you for because they just intimidated.
They don't want to be judged.
Yeah, and they will not be judged. I love eating simple food. So.
There's so I can interview you for hours, but I know that you also have a time constraint here. So I wanted to ask you a question about. So now that you have, actually no, a side question, because you mentioned this a few times. It would do my audience a disservice if I don't ask you about it. You had talked about ego. You had talked about meditation. You had talked about flow. You had talked about the energetics. Have you had some kind of training or education, or is it just culturally that's just part of the language? How you grew up you really think about the ego as separate from who you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I did have interest in myself, in searching deeper, and that led me there. And I guess my love for reading led me to reading a lot about other spiritual literatures. A lot of it was Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, mystic. Oftentimes I was always looking for the esoteric part of it, and And that's really how I started to practice meditation, and just because I thought there was more to life than just going through the motion every day. Just go, wake up, and there's I thought I'm still searching. I thought searching and taking the time to be still and just not think, you know, is the best thing I found. I
Yeah,
like.
to 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 be still is one of those things. Is 2 words, to be still, or 3 words, to be still.
Mhm.
But for me, it's one of the most challenging thing I could take on.
It's challenging.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever done Vipassana, the 10-day silent meditation retreat where
Not yet. I want to do it. I haven't done it, and yeah, I haven't. Lisa, my partner, she did. She's done it, and no, I haven't. And yeah, it's not easy.
no,
Have you done it?
it sounds simple, but it's just, oh my God, it's so intimidating. And I've done plenty of like plant medicine and all these different kind of ceremonies.
Okay.
And Vipassana is one of the most challenging things that I've done because it's 10 days. For the first 3 days, a quick share, for the first 3 days, all they focus on is this area.
The nose.
No, just the little surface area below the nose. That's it.
Oh, uh-huh.
That's what you're supposed to focus. And then I'm like, oh my God, it's so
For 3 days.
for 3 days. I was like, oh my God, so hard. But it's worth it. It's beautiful to watch the insanity of the mind. You're like, oh, so that's what my mind normally does.
Yeah.
When I'm not conscious, when I'm not sovereign, right? Just the insanity of the mind. Let's actually talk a little bit about Fonio.
Mm.
So I know that's sort of your vehicle for transformation, to bring, also to introduce West African culture and then cuisines and so forth. So for someone who learn about this for the first time, how does it compare to rice and wheat and quinoa? Because it looks a lot like quinoa. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, fonio is an ancient grain, like those, and gluten-free, unlike wheat. And this is actually the difference is the fact that fonio is very, very, very resilient. It's been around 5,000 years. It's probably the oldest cultivated grain in Africa. And the fact that it's also very nutritious, highly nutritious, if you want to compare in terms of nutrition content, it has like 5 times more fiber than brown rice, for instance. That's just one example. It has amino acids that are deficient in all the major grains, and fonio has those two amino acids in. They have it in abundance. They're called cysteine and methionine. And those amino acids are very important for human growth, but they don't have abundance of it in grains. But fonio, unless it's fonio. So, I can go on and on. I wrote a whole book. My last cookbook is on Fonio. It's the Fonio Cookbook. I don't know if you can see it in the background here. And it's the whole journey of Fonio, because I thought it was so important, a grain like this for me, the fact that it grows in a poor soil and it can restore the soil because it has deep roots that store the carbon dioxide and restores the topsoil. I live in an area called the Sahel. Senegal is the Sahel, south of the Sahara. That's an area that's very dry, very arid, and a grain that can slow down the desertification is very important. And that grain happened to be also nutritious and gluten-free and delicious. As a chef, for me, it's like, well, that's a great opportunity here. This grain can be transformational, can change this culture, because those cultures, the growers of fonio, they're among the poorest ones in the world. They just grow fonio for their subsistence. They don't have markets for fonio. So my dream was like, wow, I can find markets for this grain. I mean, easily. I'm very naive and very optimistic. If you get to know me, I think I can do anything. I mean,
That's great. One of my set. I mean, actually, don't forget. Let me ask you a question about cultivating this mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to continue on with Fonio, we can come back.
Yeah. So I was thinking, okay, look, I've seen quinoa in the US. People, brought this grain from the Andes, and it became the it grain. Fonio has all of it. It's not only is gluten free, it's very nutritious, it's great for the environment. But this grain, if it becomes the it grain, is going to transform the culture where it's from. The people, those poor farmers who can barely make a living, Fonio will make them, importers of grain, of this crop. And that can even change the West Africa. I'm not even talking about Senegal, but West Africa, because food security is an issue. It's still an issue. We're still importing food. If we can grow enough fonio for ourselves and for the import, that's really amazing. And this is me in my head saying, I'm going to do this thing. And that's how I started my company called Yolélé. And Yolélé was like, I'm
By the
going.
way, what does Yolélé mean?
Yolélé is let the good times roll. It's like it's a funny thing. But why I use Yolélé? Because Yolélé is a Fulani word. I don't know if you know what Fulani is. The Fulani people are the largest nomadic group in the world. They've been just moving from east to West Africa, north to South Africa. They're herders, and it's like you find Fulanis everywhere in Africa because they're nomadic. I mean, now you have more of them that are being sedentary, but they're still a strong nomadic group, larger than the Gypsies. I mean, it's really a big culture. And I wanted my company Yolélé to be just like the Fulani, to transcend borders. I thought my food and the food for Fonio, for instance, could be transcendental, just bring it to the here, the US, and in doing so, change the culture over there, change the situation, the difficult situation that we are living in West Africa. And in it's doing so, also mitigate climate change, because it grows easily. Fonio grows easily, and it just restores the soil, so the soil can be alive again. So it can slow the desert. It can diversify the diets of people here in the West, because we have such a limited diet. And that's why we have so much health problems. A lot of the problems that we have are caused by our diet. Obesity, the heart issues, all of it is connected by this poor diet and limited diet. So bringing crops like fonio is an amazing thing that we can do. So with one grain, I could have like so much impact, and triple bottom line, our health, our nutrition, the planet, and the farmers who grow it will benefit from it. So that's really what made me start this company. It started very, very small, and then we just managed to get Whole Foods to take in their first store when they opened in Harlem. They decided to distribute our first grain of fonio, and that became the champion in its category at Whole Foods. Whole Foods next thing wanted to have fonio in all the supermarkets in New York, and next thing we were all in the northeastern region, and today we are in all the Whole Foods in America. We are distributed in more than 1,000 supermarkets around the country. We are distributed online. I mean, you name it, Good Eggs, Thrive, Fresh Direct. I mean, everyone is serving fonio. We added new lines of products, of fonio products, the pilafs. I don't know if you can see these colorful packs around. They're all different pilafs that you can see at Whole Foods now. And all these pilafs are inspired by traditional recipes from my culture. So you have the greens that has moringa. It's really an amazing green that grows also in the Sahel, that's very sustainable. You have the Afro-funk that's like has this fermented locust bean, because there's lots of fermentation in our cuisine, just like in Southeast Asia. And this locust bean is also sustainable. It's from a tree that we ferment the seed. So I made this pilaf. So anyway, so just to make a long story short, we are distributed, we are growing. We want to grow even bigger than that. We want to be the African pantry, because there's room for it, there's a demand for it, and that changes the society there. That's changing the situation. I'm tired of hearing about young Africans trying to make it to Europe in the worst possible conditions because they don't have opportunities back home. And people die in the desert because they're trying to cross the desert by foot. to make it to Europe. People drown in the ocean. I don't know if you heard the news just last week, like hundreds of people drowned because they tried to make it on fishermen boats. They have these dugout boats and that's how desperate they are,
Mm,
and that shouldn't be, you know.
mm, mm.
They have gold with Fonio.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story and the inspiration and what you see as possible. Fonio's not just great as a consumer, but it also has ripple effects of the local economy, climate change. I mean, the ripple effect continues, right? So on this podcast, we say a lot the atomic unit, the fundamental block of making the impact that you want to make. And for me, what you just shared is this is your atomic unit of making that kind of impact. And you're already seeing successes in Whole Foods all over the US. So congratulations for doing that. That's
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
So on that note, though, as a you call yourself a social activist, as a change maker, what is the most challenging part of manifesting this vision? Because your vision is big. I see that. I feel you. I feel your heart. I feel your passion for it. And there requires some behavior change, one assume, right? Because I don't really know Fonio yet, right? I know rice, I know wheat, right? I don't know Fonio. So I'm willing to try now that I've talked to you. So from the perspective of bringing this vision to the ripple effect that you wanted to make, what is the biggest challenge that you face? And second part to that question is, how do you cultivate your mindset to not let the challenge push you down?
Well, for me, I mean, discipline is definitely something that you must, and that's, believe it or not, that's not my strength. I'm not the most disciplined person. You will be surprised that I've been able to do this without being so disciplined. But I like to.
I am very surprised because you went from dish busboy to, that requires tremendous discipline, I think.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, yeah, maybe out of fear, or you just do things. You find some strength somewhere, inner strength, and I think, um, faith. I had faith, and it's not like this, faith, religious faith, but just just faith in, believe in this mission, believe in where I was heading, and believe that, there was no other way but to make it. There was no other way. I was like confident, and so in the beginning, how to get people to believe with me, because I need them. I need them to eat for you. I would go to supermarkets myself. I would, when we first did Harlem, I'd put a table, I'd organize a cooking demo right there at the supermarket. I would have people tasting it, and every time I would do that, Fonio would sell out at the supermarket every time. And so next step for me was to find, obviously a way to scale it, because I can't be doing it, in all the supermarkets, obviously. So we hired, and I said we, actually, I partnered with Philippe Tevro, my business partner, who's also a veteran in the food industry, who's has been around, and when quinoa was first arriving in the US. So he's been importing quinoa early on. And so we teamed up. We had different experiences, and that completed each other. And so we went through the universities, Columbia, NYU, and took students who were interested in either food studies or African studies, and they became ambassadors. And they would go to the supermarkets and do exactly what I was doing in the beginning. And that's how we gradually started to get the group of like followers, people who would just like get into the products, and they became champions. The people who would be themselves going and post in social media about their experiences Fonio, or what they had cooked is Fonio. And we had gradually we built our own ecosystem of Fonio lovers, and the media was following us, and we had amazing media attention. I mean, pretty much all the major medias were like just writing stories on Fonio and supporting what we were doing. So, and I'm not even sure if I'm answering your question, because I was just explaining how it grew. But what was your question again?
Yeah, of course. So let me recap what you said. What you share is the external things that you did to help bring this idea to where it is right now, right? So you did demonstration, and you notice that anytime you do demonstration, you actually give people a taste, and then the stuff would sell out. And you also partner up with someone, a veteran who's really savvy in the food business. And then you started to recruit college, African studies and food studies students who really help you duplicate what you did. That's a way to really build this ambassadors, Fonio lovers. That's something external. What I was asking you was the internal. How did you cultivate your mind such that no matter what's going on, you can withstand the setbacks, the lack of feedback, the rejections, all of that, things that we as entrepreneurs will experience.
Yeah, I think that mind was already trained to to accept setbacks and challenges from my first days in New York. From the first, that same, again, that's why I'm really thankful for that person who stole my belongings, because he got me on that path of like just accepting just that there will be challenges, there will be hurdles, and so what, I lost my all my money, so what, this person is not putting Fonio on his shelf on the supermarket. So I mean he'll come around, and because I knew, just looking back at my trajectory and how it happened, I knew that this was just good. I can see now, and that's one way. We have a saying in Senegal: when you don't know where you're going, go back, trace your steps back. Go back to where you come from, and that always gives you an idea of where you're going. And history, I think, is the best way to read the future. And it may sound confusing. It's very clear here what I'm trying to say, so I'm going to try to make it clear to you. So just looking at this trajectory and looking at how things happened in ways that I haven't always controlled it. I would lie if I say that I'm the one who made it this way by myself. No, it's not the case. I'm clear about it. I'm clear that there was like some immanent justice. There was some some guidance, at least, that allow me. And I'm also clear that even the mistakes that I made were like necessary. Those mistakes were like actually part of the path to get to where I was getting, because I'm able now to look at those mistakes and I'm like, if I hadn't made that mistake, I wouldn't be here. I would be somewhere else, which was not where I would want to be. This is where, so I guess I want to say that my mind is accepting whatever comes, because I know whatever comes is part of the way to get to where I'm going. And where I'm going is good place, because the mission is a good mission, because the vision is a good vision, because I'm sincerely trying to bring something positive to my people, to the people that adopted me here. I'm like, I sound like very naive, but this is really what it is, and so I can't go wrong, and whatever happened is going to be good, it's going to be good, and it's been like that.
By the way, Pierre, just so that you know, it doesn't sound naive at all. The most successful entrepreneurs, I mean, that's one of the reasons why on this podcast we talk a lot about, yes, we talk about business, but we go beyond that. We talk about spirituality, we talk about beliefs, and the narrative that we have in our mind. The most successful people that I know have this absolute faith in their ability as well as in the circumstance that shows up. Things are not happening to them, things are happening for them, as so beautifully demonstrated, right? So whatever happens, it's all blessing, it's all a lesson. It's just, and as you said, who they are is good, the intention is good, the product is good, the vision is good, therefore whatever happens is good. So setback or no setback. So you beautifully demonstrated that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask, I know that we're over time, do you mind if I ask you 2 more questions? Or
yeah, go for it. No, go for it. Yeah,
cool. Thank you. So in my mind, food and music, sorry, let me backtrack. In my mind, every entrepreneur needs to think about their brand as media, basically. And food is such a beautiful, it's one thing if you're like a meditation teacher and then you try to do media, it's hard to demonstrate the impact of it. But for food, it's natural to go into to portray yourself as a media brand. So I'm curious now that I put on your business hat on, how do you use all the media channels, the social media, Facebook, Instagram, as a way to help enroll people to adapt the Fonio lifestyle?
How do I use social media?
Yeah, like how do you think about media, building brands and using media as a way to build this movement, essentially, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I've always been conscious that this is going to be what makes it, the proper use of social media. And we, as the company was growing, we realized that one of the first hire, the most important hire, was to have someone who was just specially focused on that. And that's we have this brilliant colleague, Gemma Simco, has to her, and she's she really is whipping me all the time to to make sure we get the right posts, and she since she came, we really created. I mean, she mastered it. That's not something that I'm good at. I'm strong at. I got better at it, but I knew that I needed to get there, and that's also another thing that I think I am good at, knowing that I'm not good at anything outside of the kitchen. So surrounding myself with those people, and that's why I took Philip as a business partner. So I took Gemma to take care of all the marketing and the social media, and that's how everything is really well thought as we move forward. And our growth is amazing. Our growth is really amazing just because we are able to work with the media and use the media as a tool to progress. Not sure if I'm answering your question properly, but I'm definitely conscious that the media plays a big role. And again, I'm a dinosaur when it comes to playing with them. But I've learned a lot through that hire, and through Gemma, we did so much progress, and all of it, we on all the platforms. Me personally, on from Instagram, Twitter to Facebook, and then Yolélé on those platforms as well, and my restaurant Teranga on those platforms. But each of them are run by those medias, are run by social media savvy people who are able to coordinate all the different platforms together to have a great impact.
Yeah. So for any of my listeners listening who is inspired by your story, inspired by the vision that you have, what could they do to help advance your movement?
Well, they have to go and get some Fonio. They can get it at yolélé.com, which is direct. Obviously they can get it at Amazon, but it's better to get it at yolélé.com directly. And they can get it, of course. I mean, there's so many different platforms, but once they get it, we're talking about social media. It'll be great to hear from them, what they do with it. Fonio is very versatile. There's so many things you can do with Fonio. You can just really think, be creative, or think of your favorite recipe and substitute the grain with Fonio. Fonio cooks in 5 minutes, so it's quite fun to do. And again, it's that versatility really makes it just so much fun. And send pictures, take pictures of it, and tag us, tag Yolélé, tag Teranga, tag myself, Chef Thiam, and that would be really great, because in doing so you let your network of people know about Fonio, and you would make a great contribution. And in addition, you would add something delicious to your diet.
Hey, Pierre, I really acknowledge you for sharing your journey with us, from being stranded in New York to busboy to all the way to executive chef to now being a social activist, being a founder of Yolélé, and then really doing your best, right, to make a difference in the local economic community, as well as, think climate change, on the broader scale. So really just appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. It's also a pleasure. I really enjoyed this.
Beautiful.